first Sunday of March. It's hard to believe. Who's ready for spring? Yeah, for sure. I know they got, Pastor's brother came for the Bind the Strongman conference and had to go through an ice storm. So I don't think it's over quite yet, but I know next Friday they're calling for snow here. But we're almost there. Hold on.
When's daylight savings time?
Next week.
So next
week.
Sunday?
Yes, next Sunday. So let's see, you move your clock. You lose an hour, but that's okay because the light, I'll take it. It's light later. I love that. We can just go to bed earlier, right? Everybody go to bed early next week.
And for your own health's sake, we were flying out to my brother and I flew to Atlanta for a conference last week, and I watched the master class from the UCal Berkeley neuroscience professor on sleep. And he said there's a 24% increase of heart attack the 24 hours after daylight savings time. So go ahead and go to bed an hour early.
Go to bed.
Get your full sleep. Yeah.
It's important.
Sleep affects stuff.
Well, we're so glad you're here today. So we all know that Lifetalks tackles real, relevant, and practical topics with biblical teaching and engaging discussion. So today we're going to need a lot of engaging discussion. So you know to text or email lifetalks@thelifewaychurch.net. You're welcome today to ask questions, just kind of anything you want to ask them today, and I'll tell you all about who they are in just a moment. But please send your questions. We would love to have them. So let's dive in. Today we have an opportunity to have a conversation with a wonderful couple who, whatever ministry area you want to talk about, they've been there and done that. Whether we're discussing local church.
Although I've never seen him in a T-shirt.
That is true.
Been there, done that, got the
But
T-shirt.
didn't get the T-shirt.
No.
Well, we'll have to, Stephanie can pull out her Cricut and make a T-shirt. Been there, done that. Wash it first. Wash it first. Whether we're discussing local church leadership, statewide or national leadership, or serving in ways where wisdom and strategies are developed, the Jordans have experience in it. So today, we want to cash in on some of those experiences and wisdom and have a conversation that hopefully blesses everyone in many different ways. Well, Brother and Sister Jordan, we're very, very glad you're here today. This is an awesome thing. Sister Jordan was so excited about being up here today and talking to you. All you wives know what that's about. But we do appreciate you being here. I know you've been a lead pastor, and you both have served in district and national levels, in departments. You've served as the Ohio District Superintendent and led many initiatives, Ladies President of Ohio. So we look forward to hearing from you both today across several topics, and we just want to take this time and learn from you and glean some experiences. So I'm going to hand it over to Pastor. I'm going to have him start off some comments and take it away.
Well, I think today is an awesome privilege for us.
Hold on, let's just say one thing. Pastor's here today. Can you believe this? He had surgery very quickly on Tuesday morning. He went in on Monday morning, met the surgeon who said, "I have a cancellation tomorrow. Let's go for it." And he said, "Okay." So he canceled a lot of speaking engagements. He actually had 3 that he had to cancel in the coming weeks, and got everything in order, went in and had surgery and said, "I really want to be there tomorrow. I really want to be there." Said, "Okay, Lifetalks is it." And then he's leaving. He's going back home because I don't know how well this will go.
I made a deal with my nurse. Spontaneity is one of my spiritual gifts. So I think we have an awesome opportunity today to talk to a couple who, and this is the thing that I think is unique. And I got to thinking about this, Brother Jordan. Brother Jordan is actually working on another book, and we're going to have him talk a little bit about some of that. But he's working on another book, and we had a conversation the other day, and the thing that I love about this couple is, and what our conversation was built around this idea that sometimes people who serve in ministry roles, sometimes they'll have certain high water mark places in their life or ministry. We were talking the other day about sometimes you can go to churches and you can see when they when they had their big revival, or you can go to churches and you can see it's almost like they sort of stand still in time. their furniture, the colors, their, you know, whatever. It's like going through a community where you go to a bridge or a train trestle, and you go underneath, and they have a mark, and it says like a flood, and it was 28 feet or, you know, whatever. So they got this high water mark, and churches go through periods of times where there's uniquely sovereign moves of God, and sometimes even ministers and ministries kind of get locked in. You remember we were talking about this, how sometimes ministries kind of get locked in to just doing the thing the way we do it, and this is how we do it, and this is the way we did it when we did it, and this is the way I'm going to do it. What's unique about Brother and Sister Jordan today, and what I think they bring to us, is not just simply a nostalgic look back to the good old days, but a consistent pattern of effectual ministry through multiple decades and generations. That, to me, is extremely valuable. To be able to look at somebody and say, why did it work so good back then? What was it that was the key? What can we learn from that? That's one thing. But to be able to say, you know what? You've been able to not only be flexible and malleable over a long period of ministry, but also relevant. And that's pretty amazing. And I told Brother and Sister Jordan I wasn't trying to look relevant today. I'm just trying to be very comfortable. But relevancy, you know, you can look relevant, you can act relevant, and then you can be relevant. And I think this couple is going to bring to us today that wealth of experience that not only causes us to be able to look at certain periods of time and eras, but also a consistent model of success through their ministry. So do you mind just taking a moment and just sharing with us and, you know, your ministry journey, where you started? You went to Texas Bible College, right? So Brother Jordan went to Texas Bible College. How did you meet Brother? Well, you can talk about that. You guys talk about that. How you met? We met at Texas Bible College, and so just share your journey, where you've been, and how you guys met each other, and how you guys became who you are.
You want to talk about that? That's something she could definitely talk about.
We met actually in New Orleans.
Really?
At a conference, and we just kind of got acquainted. He was dating my girlfriend, and yes, he was. And so the next summer, we went to Michigan camp with my parents, and we saw him again. I saw him again, and I said, I like him.
That's awesome.
And so we started dating then, and kind of had a few little rough places. I was in ABI, he was in Texas, and I kind of started liking another guy up there, and you know,
this is getting fun.
he didn't like
This is
that real
good.
well.
This is
We
getting
just
fun.
had a lot of rough
So
places.
she had some of her friends, or he did, send me a anti-Valentine's card
Stop it.
This
Yes.
is good.
and told me basically, stay away.
That happened exactly to us. That's funny. You know, this could be a great conversation. How did you cut the other girlfriend out? Did it?
Well, that wasn't exactly. I was not dating her girlfriend.
Oh,
I just met
And this
both
is what
of them.
he always says too.
Both
Is
of them
it?
at the
Dating
same
her.
time.
I
Kinda
was not
connected.
dating that girl.
But we kind of started a conversation, and should I tell them who it was? Would that be fun?
Yes, tell us.
Gayla Rigdon.
Are you serious? That's
Was
My
Gayla
lifelong
Dyer.
friend.
Gayla Dyer at the time. So, but then she showed up at Michigan camp the next summer, and a couple of other places, you know, and she started chasing me.
Woo!
Oh,
Until
blessed
I,
Jesus.
she started chasing me until I caught her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So you obviously got married, and
well,
all that
and-
all worked
and
out.
The thing is, you know, we only lived about 70, 75 miles from each other for all of our lives, young lives, and never had met each other.
That's interesting. So after you got married, where did ministry take you?
Well, you want to talk, or you want me to talk?
Don't care.
Go ahead.
We started evangelizing, and we traveled all over Ohio. We were in Tennessee. We got to go to Hawaii. We were in California, and we were there. We traveled for about 2.5 years, and then my dad asked us to come back to Toledo, and we did. You know, and that was the start of our journey in Toledo.
What was the Kinsey Revival? What was
Kinsey Evangelistic
Evangelistic
Party.
Party. Yes.
Kinsey Evangelistic Party, which is one of the coolest names, right? The Kinsey Evangelistic Party. It's like if you're going to have a party, make an evangelistic party. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool. All right, so you came back to Toledo, and in what role or capacity?
As assistant pastor and then associate pastor.
You were youth pastor too, weren't you?
Well, yes, but all that was kind of rolled in together.
Yeah.
At that time, there was not a lot of distinguishing between different roles.
The senior pastor said, "I need you to do."
Yeah.
But at some point, about 7 years along, Brother Kinsey wanted to retire, and so he presented the possibility that I would become senior pastor and he would retire. He presented that to the deacon board at the time, and I stepped out while they were discussing it, and came back in, and guess what? No go.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they didn't want it. Evidently, I was a little too young for their liking at that time, and maybe some other things about my style, my personality, whatever. So, but what he did was he said, okay, you know, he didn't try to just force the issue. He just stepped back and said, let's just wait. But incrementally, he would give me more and more responsibility. Wow. Until in 1982, he said, I plan on retiring 1 year from now, and if everything goes well, I would like the church to endorse Brother Jordan as pastor. So that happened in May of 1983.
Wow.
And I was senior pastor for 30 years,
Right.
from that point till 2013.
Right.
And that's when a character named Chris Dillingham
My heavens.
came into the picture. Yeah.
You know him?
I do know him. So how many years does that span from
40 years in ministry at Toledo.
and including evangelistic time?
Well, that would be about 4.5 more years.
And then since so full ministry, because you guys are still in ministry. You're not pastoring,
Yeah,
you're not district
no,
superintendent, but
no.
you're still you're here today.
I'm planning on ministering today. Yeah.
So
And also writing. I'm doing a lot of writing. If you want to know more about my life, you can buy my book here. It's my autobiography, and it's not necessarily a bestseller, but you know.
we'll be after
it's
today.
there.
This is being broadcast live all over the
Oh
world.
yeah, all over the world.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so this is going to be a good one. What was the most fun ministry role that you served? And this goes to both of you.
Well, for me, I would have to say directing the dramas. We had dramas.
We got some of those drama people right
yeah,
back here.
And I think even the Thorntons were part of some of those dramas. But
Have a drama so to avoid drama.
yes, yes. There's one kind of drama that we don't enjoy,
Exactly.
but the kind that you do on stage in your play or acting, that was a lot of fun. So,
I've actually felt like I've sort of coordinated drama as a pastor too.
yeah, well,
But we
not
never-
the different kind of
Okay,
drama.
okay, all right, I got you.
So what about you, Sister Jordan?
Well, during that time, I helped. I didn't do a whole lot with the dramas except just help make the costumes and do all of that kind of thing. And whatever he needed done. I think I did that, didn't I? Didn't I help you with that?
I can't recall. I probably.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. And then just coordinated the music. Well, we always had to have a choir song at the end of our drama, and so we had to do that. So we just did that.
So you played the organ, you directed the choir, right? Did you
Yes,
direct the choir?
I did. Played the piano some, but
She did a fabulous job of directing the choir. In fact, one of the highlights, the choir sang at the Louisville convention back in the 70s, and then in the 90s, we sang as a choir in Detroit. So the general conference was in Detroit. Wow. And we sang.
But isn't it interesting how sometimes churches, like, you begin to do certain things, and even like that creativity and whatever. I remember I don't know, this is pre-COVID, but at senior high camp or something, maybe some of you might remember, the youth from Toledo did some kind of like it was like an upside down art drawing, and they did sort of like this play with it, remember? And then I don't know if you did that, they did it at like General Conference or
They
something.
did it at a youth congress.
Right.
And I think our team did that, and I think they did it at,
They flipped it over.
yes, and it's a picture of Jesus on the cross. I can't remember exactly what it was.
That's awesome. Sister Jordan, but your mom was very musical, wasn't she? Was it your mother, or was it musical?
Oh, yes.
And
she
pushed that in the
orchestrated.
church, right? I mean, that was a
Yes.
big, like we want people to be able to, like you had an orchestra and
We had an orchestra. We had music. She would go to the church at 4:30 every Sunday and practice with quartets and choir.
That's when church started at 7:30.
Yeah. Yes. And so she was, when they traveled, they had a lot of music. And my dad didn't always like to practice, but she said, "Yes, Fred, we're practicing." And so she just extended that into when they started pastoring there.
When they had, when they were traveling as an evangelistic party, they had, let me see if I can, an accordion, a guitar, 2 saxophones, a marimba, a xylophone, a bass viol, and they put all of that in the back of somehow in the car, and they traveled with 2 girls, Pat and Pam McQueen, traveled with them all over the country. And so I think they said one time that the bass viol went in between the 2 girls in the back seat, and the neck, extended up toward the front seat. And, it was something. And plus, back in those days, when you stayed overnight, you didn't go to a motel or a hotel. You stayed with the pastor in that home, and 4 people in a small home with 1 bathroom. That was pretty interesting. Yes.
All right, next question. What do you feel that you are most natural at doing? Kind of the way Jesus has specifically wired you to contribute to the work of God. This might be a harder question.
I don't know. What do you think, Kathy?
that's a
Help
good
her
question.
out.
What do you think? This is, by the way, this is just so you know, Lifetalks isn't a conversation at you; it's a conversation with you. So it's very normal. What do you think Sister Jordan's kind of wired to do? What's her kind of just their natural God gifting?
She's a gatherer.
That is so
really good.
awesome. Man, that is so awesome.
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy doing all of that, and he mentioned the choir. I loved directing the choir. It was just really wonderful until I got older, and then I kind of got tired of it. But I love doing it.
I don't really know. I like to talk. Like to teaching and preaching. The pulpit place. One man said, "When you see me behind the pulpit, I'm just coming up for air." So a lot of the other, but I'll just about all the stuff I liked. I liked thinking about ministry, not just doing it, but thinking about it and trying to as you said earlier, be relevant and make adjustments and analyze things. That's kind of where my mind goes to.
That's why I started to say probably, and those of you that have known Brother Jordan for years and been under his ministry would be coordinated thinking. Not just strategic, but coordinating thoughts. My experience with you has been that your ability to coordinate your thinking around this, thinking what are observations of best practices, and even your messages are coordinated at communicating what it is that you feel that Jesus wants to say today. So that to me has the ability to then be communicated well. Like sometimes there's people that are brilliant and their thinking is brilliant, but they don't have the ability to take those thoughts and coordinate them in ways that become transferable.
Well, yeah, I don't like irrelevant things, things that it doesn't really matter. I mean, I like to think about things that really matter and it really impact people in the real world, in real life. So a few years ago, we started a deal called Reimagining Church. There was a book out by the Search for Excellence, I think was the two, Thomas Waterman, I think was one of them. But anyway, they put together a book called Reimagining Corporations or something like that. And I thought, wow, we need to reimagine. So we did. We put together a team that reimagined how we did everything from opening the service to closing the service, from offerings to prayer service to worship, all of that. And as a consequence, a lot of things began to change. And, it was because I think that when newcomers come to church, they should not have to come and have a history lesson or have to be, tell them this is the way we've always done it, and you'll catch on after a while. But they need to feel immediately like they don't understand what's going on, and they're connected, and that they're ministered to. So, if we did things like we did 100 years ago, well, a lot of the mainline denominations have done that, and guess where they are today? A lot of them, yes, and that's why their church buildings are empty. And in fact, we're probably taking over a lot of those empty church buildings. The Pentecostals are. And so, but I didn't want that to happen. I felt like we needed to be relevant. We needed to minister to people. Now, it's tough because it means some change, but in the long run, that's going to be the right thing to do, because church is not about culture.
That's so true.
Church is about worshiping God in a meaningful way.
So true. And that's, I think the beautiful thing about that is, and this is something that, man, I'm so passionate about, because I think stewarding the kingdom, stewarding the influence of the kingdom, stewarding that in ways that become that give people entry points to, Jesus. It's so interesting that I've said this before, and Jesus could have blown people away with his ability to, but he didn't. Because he was the incarnation, right? He wanted people to be able to have an access point through him. It's the point he was here. And if he made the access point so difficult to understand or know or whatever.
Well, just think about the woman at the well. I mean, if he would have said, we're having a meeting, and we want that woman at the well, somebody go get her and bring her over to our meeting, and it would never have worked. She would probably never have come. But he went to the well and drank the water that she provided and established a connection and was able to minister to her. And in the end, she went back to her community and told everybody about it and brought them. So, yeah, it was, he adapted, if you want to say it that way, his methodology to fit the situation on the ground.
Wow. Stewardship of kingdom access. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Stewarding kingdom access so that people have an access point. And then the crazy thing about it is he delegates to the woman at the well to be a steward of kingdom access, which is...
Well, and the word steward is to manage. Yeah. So we would use that word more today, I think, managing, because there are things that need to be manipulated, and that's not the right word, but there are things that need to be adjusted and changed so that they fit the situation. So that's really what I think. That's what I've attempted to do in a lot of my books. In fact, one of my books I'm working on right now is called Blue Collar Christians. Wow. Because there are a lot of people in blue collar jobs that do not feel as though they are important. They're stuck, and they resent it they become either apathetic about everything, or they just feel like, well, I'm marking time until I can retire. But the right thing to think about that is, I am here on assignment from God. God wants me here.
Come on,
why?
son.
And I'm going to find out why, and I'm going to fulfill my purpose, because I have a purpose for driving this garbage truck. I have a purpose for digging this ditch. I have a purpose, and there's some way that I'm going to fulfill the will of God in what I'm doing.
Woo! You see why my brother fits there well? That's awesome. Man, oh man.
That's good. That's good. Well, you're preaching everything that's been preached around here for.
No, you know what's amazing about what I love about that is one thing that I wasn't raised in church, obviously, in the apostolic church. My grandfather was a Methodist pastor. And I think the thing that the Catholic Church created was this wide priest-laity gap.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Right? And I think one of the things that the apostolic church maybe didn't do as well, like we rediscovered apostolic doctrine, salvation doctrine, and the Godhead and whatever. But some of that ministry laity gap, we didn't do really a great job. And so I think this is the example of saying, you know what, I'm still serving the kingdom to say, let's understand biblical governance and authority, but then also understand that this is the kingdom army.
Right. Well, you know, as an example, I was the district superintendent for 22 years. And then in 2017, someone else was elected. So my whole role, my whole psyche, if you will, was not wrapped up in that position. Right. That position was just something that I did. I was asked to do, and I did while they wanted me to do it. Right. And if they didn't want me to do it anymore, I was open to do something else that God wanted me to do. And so I never have regretted that change. I never have resented it. I've always embraced this is now what God wants me to do. And so someone else can have all those headaches. You know?
For real. All right, let's get Sister Jordan. Is it okay to get her first? Okay, Sister Jordan.
You're the moderator.
You were raised in not only in a pastor's home, but you saw your parents, which was Fred and Vera Kinsey, serve during a formative time in our movement. In fact, your mother was instrumental in the formation of Ladies Ministry and the Mother's Memorial Annual Offering, which I'll have her explain what that is, because I know we have people here that have no idea what that is. How did those experiences shape your view of the work of God?
Well, they worked very hard. My mom was up at 4:30 every morning, and she was working. She was writing letters, and of course, she was not into the computers and all of that, so she hand wrote every letter, and then I would type them up for the ones to go out to all the ladies. But she worked hard at that. She was 30 years. She was the National Ladies Superintendent.
30 years?
Yeah.
We couldn't remember. That is so phenomenal.
30 years.
She tried to retire, but Brother Urshan wouldn't let her.
Yeah, until that time came. She was 80 years old. So,
during that time, she was also teaching music lessons. She had, in her up to her 80s, she had 90 students a week.
Yes.
So
and still kept the house going and food on the table. You know, sometimes she would say, okay, Sandy, you got to make this tonight. She would have a salad there for my dad and myself. But I saw that work ethic, and I don't think I kind of or quite measure up to what she did.
Is that hard?
I remember being over at the house when she was teaching lessons. She had students come to their house for a lot of the students, and she'd be standing there with a saucepan eating soup out of a saucepan while she was teaching. So, I mean, it was just work. Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, they were raised on a farm, and they had all of those work ethics for the farm. She had an egg route, I think, before they really got into ministry, and it was just nothing but work from dawn to dusk.
So interesting. But being raised up like that, that's kind of a impossible role model. how did you navigate that? Like to say, you know what, that's who she was, but that's not who necessarily I have to be? Or did you feel like that challenge of,
Well, I probably felt like I had to at least try to measure up a little bit, and I don't know how well I did, but
Too well.
you know, I worked hard at it too.
Yes.
And I saw that in both of them.
yes,
And so that influenced me greatly.
Well, and her dad was also very progressive-minded, and
Yes.
before he got into the ministry, he was a farmer, as I said, and he was the first one that had a tractor in the county in Indiana, central part of Indiana. And he wanted to go to college to
Bible
be
school.
well. Before that, he wanted to go to college to be an electrician.
oh really?
Work in electronics. And his teacher at the time said, "You don't want to do that, Fred. Everything that's we know about electricity has already been discovered.
Oh
So
my goodness.
you'd be wasting your time."
That is so
Yeah.
funny. Oh my words. Sister Julie Thornton, is that some of the places where your family's from? North Central Indiana?
Plymouth, La Paz.
Wow. Which is also part of Brother Mangan, right? G.A. Mangan?
They out of the same church. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Brother Walter Mangan, Brother G. Mangan's father, was Brother Kinsey's pastor.
That's pretty phenomenal. Some of you are like, why is that phenomenal? It just is.
I have a question here that came in from the audience that says, is Sister Jordan planning on writing any books?
I don't think so. My daughter keeps telling me I need to, but I'm just not tuned into that, so probably not. I'll just keep my mouth going and somebody else can write it. My daughter can write it. She's a good writer. She can write it later, but I'm not going to do that.
That's awesome. So I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here. We're gonna move into some ministry perspective things, and we know that the world has changed considerably. We kind of talked about this early on, and maybe even the mindset of people in the church over the span of a ministry. So, you mind if we take just a little moment and just to hear you talk about some of the changes that you've seen over the years? And so let's just start with sort of a general socio-cultural condition from the time you first started ministering, because this is interesting. It does match up with what we've been talking about how that, you know, people at times minister in ways that, like, well, I'm gifted to do this, and culture is a certain way, and so the way we reach people, or the way we minister to people, or the way we pastor people. I've heard it said before. I think, Brother Jordan, you said before. Actually, I think you said in the conversation we had on the phone the other day, you couldn't pastor today the way sometimes pastors pastored 50 years ago. So talk about some of that, maybe just how have things been different? How's the world different? And what kind of changes have you seen?
Well, we've really experienced a shift in the culture itself, and that impinges upon the way we minister, the way we do church. For example, 50 years ago, most women did not work a job somewhere else. They worked in the home, and there was a nuclear family, and people were good sinners. They were not these crazy sinners that we have today. And so it was pretty predictable. But since then, almost all women work outside the home, and so the time that they have to do a lot of things that formerly were done in the home, they don't have time to do that. So that takes time away from church. And
it puts pressure on families.
Exactly, and also the energy level that they have to put into church work is not as much. Before we'd have revivals, for example, every night except Monday night, we'd have church service. We cannot do that today. People can't, they wouldn't be able to function and make supper, pay their bills, clean the house. All of the things that you have to do to make a home would not be possible. And so that's changed. And so, and things have have a domino effect. That affects how quickly people are discipled. So always before, a person would come in the church, and they would have several revivals a year, every night. And a year later, they would be changed. But now, church maybe once a week.
Very good point.
And
very good point.
So they don't have nearly as much input into their lives. It takes them longer to get acclimated to serve the Lord in an apostolic fashion. So that's part of it. And I think a lot of our work, the music's changed, participation has changed. A lot of our people are now much more educated, and the internet has opened up vistas of opportunities and of accumulation of knowledge. People know a lot more about a lot more things than they ever did before. So that changes their expectations when they come to church. They don't want to hear about the cows and the chickens, and they don't want to hear about cranking the car up and getting it. They want. It's a totally different mindset today.
If you don't mind me interrupting.
No, go on.
This is interesting because I was I just 5 days ago, 6 days ago, I went to the surgeon and had a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and Tuesday I was prepped for surgery this past week. And the surgeon was telling me, he said, what's interesting is people now come in to talk to him to tell him what they think they have. And he's got to right, and they've been on Mayo Clinic.
Because they got on WebMD.
That's it. And he said it is a different, challenging deal. Brother Jordan, you said something, and I want to sort of pull a comment that you made to me at one point. You can tell Brother Jordan's had a lot of influence in my life, haven't you? Because I said, Brother Jordan told me one time we were talking, Brother Jordan said, but Brother Jordan, you mentioned to me one time, you said that you noticed, and I'm going to kind of direct this over to you a little bit, Sister Jordan, that you started noticing that as there was this switch of age on the platform, singing, people that are involved, sort of coincided with this change of more like moms, wives working outside the home. As what you just mentioned, there's more two-income families. You mentioned to me that you started noticing that the age of people that were singing and involved and moving from like choirs to praise teams and whatever, and that the age started diminishing, and you actually had a philosophy, and I wonder if you observed this over the years, that over time that you started noticing that there were the singles were the ones now who had the time to come and practice and so on and so forth. Did you notice that through the years or as an observation?
I'll let him answer.
Well, that's true because singles had the time, and obviously they were most likely to be younger, and didn't have the kind of responsibilities that took them away, and so they could focus more. They had more time to do it, and also the tastes have changed. They weren't so enamored with the big band sound, and the Frank Sinatra sound, the easy listening. It was more bass and drums and and upbeat kind of stuff. So a lot of our people today that were very active in music before have backed off. Why? Because they just don't get the new beat. They don't get the new stuff.
And that's why I don't play very much anymore. I can't play the new stuff.
I'm with you.
That's what my wife says.
So obviously then there would be a shift, and sometimes it's subtle, but it was nevertheless very apparent that things were changing. And now, today, what, is this confession time? When I sing, I try to learn the words, but the problem is that next week it's going to be a different song. And every week there's a brand new song.
That is so true.
And see, a lot of the younger people listen to music all week long, and so they already know the song.
That is so good.
I never listen to music. Never, you know, I say never, like once a year maybe. But
Music, my wife will tell you, I'm like, babe, would you mind, please just turn off that music. It's driving me.
is this, am I connecting with everybody here? Is it, okay.
You know,
Only half of this crowd.
no, but what is interesting though, I think this is so vitally important because I'm just going to throw something out. Michael Frost, who wrote the book Surprise the World, Australia, he's a professor, a missiologist. Michael Frost was actually talking about the move away from congregational singing and how that what you're describing has actually created an environment that's not completely healthy. That there is a little bit more of a, they come, they practice the song, and then they sing the song at you, and if you know it, you sing it, and if you don't, you listen to it. And so he was talking about that there is something inherently biblical about congregational anthemic kind of singing. And I think
Jesus did it. Jesus led his disciples in singing hymns and psalms. And so if they were the psalms, everyone knew the words, and they could join together. It was a kind of a group effort. You know, you feel it's like when the football team has a huddle. You know, before the game starts, they all put their hands out and hold hands, and all go, you know, let's go or whatever.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. So because it brings people together, and I think the same thing happens in congregational music. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but if you ever go to a camp meeting service and you got a little older person up there leading, and they start singing "When We All Get to Heaven" or something like that, everybody starts singing. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and because it's a group dynamic, and I think if we're not careful, we will lose that. A lot of other aspects of our music today is wonderful, beautiful, and I love it, and I think people respond to it. But there may be some things that we could improve a little bit.
See, now I just want to stop and say, there's how you stay relevant, is to say the way we do worship now induces amazing worship. Lifeway is an incredibly worshiping church. And this church is just ridiculously worshipful. And so what we do doesn't inhibit worship. I think that what you're seeing here is an ability to say, no, let's glean the good from that. Let's be a church that worships and flows with the Spirit, and it gives people the free time to engage with the Spirit. But at the same time, let's think about, are we at times making space for those moments where it's like, hey, wait. This right now is about all of us. Let's take a moment, stop the music, stop the singing, and let's all lift up Jesus together.
So what happens, and this is from the past, but if you've been around a long time, you remember these times when there would be a quiet hush, and usually at the end of the service, in the altar service, and maybe somebody would start a song, and it would just be the Spirit of God just sweep over the place, and it was so sacred, and so holy and beautiful, and I'm not seeing as much of that today, and I think that's unfortunate as well. We need, because that's when you can really feel the sensitivity of the Spirit moving on us. So
How crazy. That's exactly, if you'll remember, last week, that's what we experienced.
Yeah.
And it got very quiet, and some people said, boy, that was a really different service. And it was, but sadly, it was a different
well,
service.
and it doesn't
ministers
feel,
to the soul.
yes,
and
and
it's
it doesn't feel as coordinated.
Exactly.
And-
Well, that's wonderful. Spontaneous worship. It just when it happens.
I don't want the
like that.
church to get to a place where they feel like we're waiting for what do we need to do next? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Where everything feels so
check off the list.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to run out of time, so let's just head on down here. Let's go to leadership influence. So What do you think church leaders today need the most?
Well, as a leader, a lot of times I feel like I have maybe overthink things, but people do need direction. They need to be told, but not commanded. I think a lot of times we go from influencing or persuading to ordering or commanding or even shaming people into what's wrong with you? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you worshiping and so forth? And that's counterproductive as far as I'm concerned. I think the best way to lead is to lead by example, to lead by persuading and helping people to see the benefit of worshiping, not feeling that if you don't do, you're not doing it right. If you're not doing it this exact way, you're not doing it right. I don't know, is there a right way to worship? I think if you're sincere and you love God and your heart is right, and however it comes out, however you express it, God loves that.
You know what's interesting? Last week, the thing that my brother and I went to in Atlanta, there were 42 network leaders and denominational leaders in it's called Catapult. It was just kind of trying to think about, they're trying to think about how do we create like a multiplication movement, a missional effectiveness, saturation, whatever. One of the guys got up and he made this statement. He said, people have gotten so thirsty that they've drunk the sand. He said, but the way that you convince people that drinking sand is not right is not to tell them that how stupid they are for drinking sand, but to drink water in front of them and show them that that's what's quenching. So he was making this statement that it's, we can't curse the darkness as much as just shine the light. Like,
exactly.
Don't tell people, why are you so stupid? You're drinking the sand. Yeah. That's just the dumbest thing ever. What, don't you know?
If you tell somebody they're stupid for doing something, they're going to keep doing it out of spite. Yeah. Yeah. This irritates you and you irritate me, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about an author. Life as an author. We will get to the rapid fire. We'll definitely do that. We've talked about
why do you have that timer that keeps going 30 seconds down to nothing?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
We'll talk to our team up there. I don't know why that does that. So we've talked about your ministry and leadership roles as it relates to the church organization, but really just as importantly in the last decade or more, there has been an increased emphasis on your formal writings, your books, your articles. I've seen it in Pentecostal, what do they call it? Pentecostal Life? Did they change it?
Life, yeah.
Life, okay, yeah, I've seen all of your articles, and it feels like you've been doing a lot of writing. So how many books have you written?
Well, I think there are 22 books in publication, and I've got a couple more that have not been published. I had one book last year that they refused to publish. I don't know why. They didn't. No, it was just that they didn't give me a reason. They just said not at this time. It was about, the title of it was Go to Church. And I was really addressing the fact that during COVID, so many people stopped going to church. And they need to get back into going to church because, online is fine in a pinch. But I don't think the online services really minister to the soul, because you can show up in your pajamas, nobody sees you, and you can turn it off at will, or you can go and say, you know what, I want to go eat my breakfast or whatever. But when you're in a church service and you connect with people, then it becomes a different thing, a different dynamic. So that's really what I was, anyway, they didn't want to do that. So, but I've got another 2 books I'm working on right now. The one I talked to you about, Blue Collar Christian, and then another one called Leadership Thrusts and the Church Personalities They Produce.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Because, for example, this church, you have a dynamic leader, a pastor, And guess what? Your church, I don't know if you realize this or not, your church personality is driven by the style and the leadership thrust of your leader. And I just asked this question: how would a Marine sergeant pastor a church? Well, I could tell you. I'm acquainted with a former Marine who pastors church. How would a star athlete pastor his church? How would a marriage counselor pastor the church? You know, that personality. So anyway, that's what that book's all about. So that'll be a couple more books. So I'll probably have, by the time I'm gone, it'll be maybe 25 to 30 books.
Have you brought books with you today?
I have just a few. I've got some books here.
Share it with you.
Okay, this is my here, hold that.
Is that
This is an autobiography.
Okay, yeah.
That goes into some detail about some things that happened. For example, in 2007, the United Pentecostal Church changed its position on advertising on television, and that was a huge controversy. And I was in the middle of all of that, and so I have all of the facts and figures about that.
That's awesome.
Anyway, and a lot of other stuff that had to do with all of my background and so forth. Anyway, and then
now this is interesting. This is a novel, right?
This is a novel. This is a sequel in the first novel, which was Morgan County Morning, and this is Morgan County Midnight. Morgan County is a county in Ohio just south of Zanesville. It's one of the poorest counties. There are no two-lane road or four-lane roads in the entire county. It's only two-lane roads. I think there are 15,000 people in the entire county. And anyway, that's the setting for this, and it's a book. Let me see. Mayhem in a Children's Home, Oil Magnates, Illegal Aliens, A Marriage on the Rocks, Criminal Minds, and Unexpected Impact of a Spiritual Ministry. It's a rushing vortex of high drama with investigative reporter Connor Morgan caught at the center.
That's awesome.
So,
you wouldn't happen to be working on New Palestine Nightmare, would you?
No, but 59 derailments this year.
Do you know they just had one in Springfield?
Yes, it just happened. They still really haven't decided whether or not there's any toxic materials released in that. No, I don't have. That's the one. I don't have the first one. This is the sequel. But anyway, it's still a standalone book. This is the one I wrote a few years ago to actually give out to visitors or to people that were prospective, a short book about you. It just tells people how important they are.
That's so awesome.
Each person should understand that to God, they are the most important person in the world.
That's awesome.
So that's what that's all about.
All right.
All right.
Let's go.
All
Let's
right,
hit
here we
these.
go. Brother Jordan, got a few questions for you and a few for you. You ready? You'll need your mic.
Are
She
we
shook
about
her
done?
head like, no, we are. Brother Jordan, is it true or just a legendary myth that you were called Warden Jordan during your time as youth president?
You know, there's always naysayers around.
It's true.
People just have a flair for alliteration, you know, and
Okay, so
Warden Jordan.
how did you earn that legendary nickname?
You know, some people were lying about me, and you know, I don't know. I just enforce the rules.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's it.
Exactly.
Okay, so what does the J stand for, and when did you decide to go with your middle name as your primary?
My name, J stands for Jonathan, and my family always called me Mark.
Did they?
And so that's what I was stuck with, and you grow up with that, and you just kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
So I use the word J. I don't know when I started doing that. I thought it was cool, I guess.
No, it's too cool. It is very cool. If you're called by your middle name,
There's
J.
JP
Mark. I mean, come on. You got to do
J.P.
it.
Morgan, you know. And
Yeah. My middle name is Grissom, Our family, so our family, this is pretty interesting. Our family, for whatever reason, I don't know if they don't have a lot of creativity or not, but the firstborn son takes the name of the father and the maiden name of his mother as a middle name. So my name is Kenneth Grissom Dillingham. My name should have actually been Kenneth Pierce Dillingham, but my dad made me a junior while my mom was still under anesthetic after my birth. They did end up divorced,
That did
by
not
the
go
way.
over well. Okay, Sister Jordan, what is your favorite pastime or hobby?
I love to read, and I don't much care for cooking anymore. But my husband said, I asked him what this was, and he said, talking on the phone.
Yay! That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
And I do love to minister to
That's
people.
awesome.
You know, the older, that's kind of what my role is now.
She does love to minister to people.
That's
For
awesome.
example, yesterday we went down to see Sister Buller,
Yeah.
and that was, of course, my wife's idea. And but she does this a lot. She wants to go. There's something about, and my wife is a representative of this, that stereotyping. I know I like to do stereotypes. Women get their greatest feeling of significance through their relationships.
Interesting.
Whereas men get their significance through their work, their job, who they are. So, and one of the most difficult things about retiring is that she had to step back from a lot of relationships
Yes.
in the church because now there was another
Yes.
pastor's wife.
That's very
who took-
interesting.
Yeah. So that's left, that was probably more difficult for her in retirement than it was for me. But she loves those relationships, and she keeps them up as much as she possibly can.
I go minister to all the older ladies that are sitting in the back. And
That's so
that's-
amazing. But it's just beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
And you know what's, when you think about that, you do find that over time, historically, pastors' wives sometimes have a harder time retiring or stepping out of ministry sometimes than the husband.
That's exactly right. And
Yeah.
I hear that we talk to a lot of retirees.
Yes.
Obviously, they're all contemporaries now.
Yeah.
And many of the women say that's
Wow.
been something they miss.
Wow. Okay, rapid fire. Ready? Is it just because your last name, or is that why you think Michael Jordan is the GOAT?
You know, somebody asked me one time if I was, a bank teller asked me if I was related to Michael Jordan.
That's awesome. It's
And
possible.
I said, obviously not.
It's possible.
I wish.
He's so much taller than me.
Exactly.
He plays basketball better than me.
It's true.
And the most important thing, he has a lot more money than I do.
It's true.
Favorite food? What's your favorite food?
Oh my, I love Mexican. I love Chinese. As you can see, I love everything.
What's your favorite food, Brother Jordan?
I love Olive Garden. Their salad is just wonderful. So, yeah.
Vacation spot. Favorite place to vacation?
Last few years we've been going to Florida because our daughter lives in Florida, and there's a room right there just begging for us to come. And don't have to pay for it.
You had Michael Jordan's money.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's beautiful down there in the springtime. We don't have all the snow up here in the cold weather
In the wintertime.
in the wintertime.
Yeah,
Right.
February is usually when we're down there.
July.
No,
Stick
we'll
around.
be in north.
Who's the most outgoing between the two of you?
Depends on the
Depends on-
situation.
What situation you're
If
in.
we're in church, she's probably the most outgoing as far as touching base with other people and so forth. I'm really comfortable holding up in my office. And,
Yes, he is.
however, I can be very, communicative,
Talkative.
Yeah, I can do that if I have to.
That probably goes with the next question. It says, would you be most likely to say, let's
yeah,
go
yeah.
out, or just stay home tonight?
I would say go out for me, stay home for him.
When I was growing up, I grew up in a pastor's home. We went out almost every night after church. And as I said, if you have church every night, that means you go out every night. You know, we were always going out. And when I got married, I didn't like that. I wanted to stay home. And so she didn't always appreciate that. But
That's awesome. Okay, so what are your favorite top couple golf courses you've ever played? Who would you love to play a round of golf with, and who would you choose to play in a minister's four-man golf scramble with you?
Well, obviously, this is a self-serving question.
It very much is.
Because, we have a great time playing golf together. But the best course I ever played was Pebble Beach. I did play Pebble Beach. My Pebble Beach story is on the 18th hole. If any of you are familiar with that, it's a huge horseshoe-shaped hole. And I stepped up to the tee box and I said, watch the three other guys were playing. I said, watch this. I'm going to hit this. It's going to go out over the water and the rocks. It's going to slice back just slightly, and it's going to end up in the front or in the middle of the fairway, just in front of that big tree out there. And so they said, "Oh yeah, we know, we hear you. Yeah, come on." I stepped up, and so help me, it's exactly what happened. I mean, it was a beautiful shot. So that was my first shot. I went up there and hit the next shot into the ocean.
That is awesome. And I know it would be hard to refuse me as your four-man scramble.
Yes, yes.
All right.
All right, we do need to stop. It's 10:49. So are we thankful for the Jordans today?
I have something to say, though.
Hold on, she has
Hold on,
something
hold
to
on.
say.
I want to announce to this church that Sister Dillingham is the Section 6 leaders of Mother's Memorial and Ladies Ministries. So she said she had not told you that. So I said, I am going to tell them. So get behind her and do everything she says and make this church the greatest in Mother's Memorial giving.
Great.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's a great
There
goal.
you go. So thank you for being here today. We're so thankful the Jordans are with us. We're excited about our next service. You're going to hear him preach. We have a lot going on today. It's Promotion Sunday for our Sunday school. So that's going to be something new that we've just begun. This will be our first service for that. And then we have our life group fair after service. So it's going to be a great day. So we'll see you all back here at 11 o'clock.